Well, this is Michael Smits Jr., and today I'm interviewing my dad, Mike Smits.
Senior.
Yeah, senior. So we're going to start off with just what do you remember about your grandparents? Just first,
Oh,
what were their names?
well, it was Art, and I think it's Edna Adams, were my grandparents on mom's side. Now she was from Upper Michigan, I believe, and Grandpa Adams was from Canada, I can't think of it, Chatham, Canada, where Jan and I have visited that twice. Um, uh, what do I know about them is he was one classy guy, always dressed to the nines. He had on a tie, and just always, even when he was out gardening, he had on a tie.
Hmm.
And he was pretty cool. And he worked at a place called Smitty's Shoes. God, that was a neat shoe factory. It's where we got our shoes when we were kids. Once a year, he'd take us in there, and we'd get to pick them out. And one year, Mom wasn't with us, and we picked out army boots.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, his wife, Grandma Adams, she was quiet. She hardly ever said anything, and I know very little about her except for her last name was Meisner, and her and Grandpa Adam's sister Mabel, who we called Mabes, didn't get along. They'd go for a car ride, and one would roll the window up, and the other one would roll the
Oh,
window
man.
down. They'd do anything to upset the other one.
Hmm.
Um, she was from Michigan. I don't know how they met. I've got their wedding stuff, but I don't know how they met. Um, I've heard that he worked on the shipping industry up there, but I know he did a lot of different things before coming to the States. I know so little about her.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, the Smith side was Joe and Lolly. I think her real name was Laura, but everybody called her Lolly. And she was quite the spitfire. Oh my goodness. She had orange hair
Oh, wow.
because she wanted to have red hair. um, and she was just a wonderful lady, as was Grandpa Joe, Grandpa Smits. He was a fisherman.
Was that his like career job trade?
No, he started their business. The Smits Trade Shop
Oh,
was called. They had linotypes that they put. You've seen their linotypes. They did a bunch of typing, and they would send that to people to press to publish with.
wow.
And he started that business in that basement. Oh God, when I started working there with him, he was part time. He came down to giggle and laugh and listen to Braves games, but most of the time, him and his buddy Stucker, Mr. Stucker, were off perch fishing. They loved to fish. They'd go to Minnesota. I can't remember the name of the lake, but it was a 200 perch limit. They took a freezer with them.
Hmm.
They'd go out, fill their limit, go back to the motel room, dump it all in, and go back and get more fish. They had a freezer that was huge, as big as this whole section of things here. And they filled it with fish until Grandma started filling it with bread because she got obsessed with saving money on buying food.
Hmm.
So they were a lot of fun. And they used to take us on trips up to the Door County area to get on a boat to go out to some island. And I don't remember what island it was. Um, but it would be a long drive in their old car. And we would say the rosary.
Hmm.
They'd be in the front. And I think it would be like me and Tim in the back. They only took a couple of us. And you'd be sitting in the back making gestures and faces, and Grandma Smith is in the front. Hail Mary, full of grace. Oh, God. And but they were a lot of fun. And that side of the family we saw all the time. The Adams side of the family, In the 18 years that I lived in that area, I bet you we didn't get together more than 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Just two different families, whereas the Smits, Grandpa Smits, put on a booyah every summer. And it was great because he had a great big copper cauldron. And my great uncle, your great great uncle Leonard, had built him a fireplace in the back, a great big uh, brick one, and it had a oven in it. And on the top, he'd make that bouillon. Oh God, it was beautiful. But he'd kill the chickens. This is when he first started doing it. We were young, and I was sitting there. Me and a couple of my cousins and Grandma Smits. Lolly was in the kitchen window looking out, remember, from our 4th Street house. And Grandpa would chop a chicken head off, throw it in the 50-gallon drum. Pum, 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 you know how they did. Except for he'd always miss one and let it fall into the kids.
Oh my gosh.
And there's blood. And you hear from the kitchen, God damn it, Joe. It was just hilarious. But he'd do that booyah. The only thing I didn't like about it is he didn't bone the chicken. So what we ended up doing is getting a bowl with a little bit of booyah and all kinds of oyster crackers and fill it up. And it was great. But along with that, there were all kinds of side dishes. All the aunts and uncles. And our Aunt Rita, our Aunt Eileen, who was Sister Rita Bernard at the time, would come to town for that. So it was a big deal. Oh man. And we just had a blast at it. And our cousins, oh God, there was one set from California that was Elwood and Laurel. And they had children, Michael, who lives up here now, and Stu, and David, and a daughter who I really never knew. She was a baby the last time I saw her. And then there was Jerome. Well, I'm getting too far ahead.
Oh, no, that's siblings. Fine. Keep going.
Yeah, his siblings were Uncle Jerome, Uncle Kenny, and Elwood. Elwood was the baby. He was the one that moved to California. But they were quite a bunch. They went hunting together. Not Elwood. He was out in California. Oh God, but they were just Jerry and Kenny, my 2 uncles. God, they were a treat. And he had a sister. He actually had 2 sisters, Ruthie and Rita. Ruthie died when she was young, in the living room of the house that we lived in on 4th Street. Oh God, but Rita, they were all beautiful. When Mom and Rita and Aunt Harriet was Kenny's wife, and Enola, who was Uncle Jerome's wife, were all sitting together, and I was a little kid, and I was looking over at them, and I was thinking, they are the prettiest group of girls. And they were, oh God, Mom was very quiet. You all know that.
Yeah.
Rita and Harriet and Enola, you could hear them cackling all over the neighborhood. And they were great laughs. Aunt Enola, who was Irish and married to Uncle Jerome, she would laugh, and everybody in the neighborhood knew that Enola was over. But, oh God, years later, Tim and I were up hunting at the cabin, and Sister Eileen was up there. So we were going to give her a ride back to town, but we invited her down to the cabin from Mom and Dad's place to have a beer. Well, I guess I could come down. Well, we had to go get more beer. And I told her, I said, Aunt Rita, one of my best friend, his father wanted to take Rita out on a date. And Sister Eileen said, well, she probably did because she dated everybody.
Oh my gosh.
Me and Tim. Of course, she was a nun. oh God, and I remember when she was becoming a nun, she was a novice or whatever, a nun at,
Mm-hmm.
um, they couldn't have their picture taken. And this was at the annual Booyah party. Now I'm just a, you know, 5, 6, 7-year-old kid. But there are my uncles, and these were cameras that you couldn't sneak up and, you know. And she came out on the balcony on 4th Street, and she wanted her picture taken, but she's up to go, hold up,
Mm-hmm.
and doing all of this stuff, and there are my uncles. Ah!
Oh.
God, that was funny. But that, I I know my grandpa, great grandpa, lived in East Pere, and I couldn't tell you anything about him.
Hmm.
And
Any
love,
other extended family, maybe? You know,
uh,
you've had a lot of aunts and uncles already. Can you think of any you may have missed?
oh, well, on Dad's side, it's just Rita, who married Bud Carter, and they moved to Milwaukee. Kenny with Aunt Harriet, and Jerome with Auntie Nola, and of course all their children. And on Mom's side, there was Uncle Art and Aunt Alice, and then there was Uncle Bob and Aunt Vivian. Vivian was Mom's sister. They're the ones that lived in Wilmington. I only met them twice,
Okay.
uh, maybe 3 times. And she also had another sister, Beth, who died in, I think, 1949 of diabetes. She was the Pam of that family because they have pictures of her in New York and all
Mm.
over the place having a great time, showing leg.
Sure.
uh, Great pictures. And I have a picture of Grandma and Grandpa having a great time in New York on the boardwalk, and they're doing is sitting in a cart, one of these golf cart type things they had back then, and they're both sitting there stiff as boards.
Hmm.
uh, but Uncle Art had a crane, a huge crane that he did a lot of work with. He did really well with it. I can't think of the name of his company. But again, we only saw them a few times.
Wow.
But they're very nice. He's a ex-Marine. He was on Iwo Jima. He was at one of those islands, and we were sitting at the 4th Street house. I had a party after Mom and Dad's 50th anniversary party, and I sat down to talk to him, and I said, you know, I remember when I was a kid, the day that Mom and Dad took Tim and me to the fair. Yeah, it's me. Tim and me to the fair, they put us on the couch. We were just little tykes. And we had to take a nap, and they covered us with Uncle Art's marine blanket. They had gray with a black stripe and USMC on it.
Mm.
So I mentioned that to him. Well, he pulled out a picture from when he was on that island. And all you could see were these tracers, and it was he. And he said, I can't talk about it.
Oh my. Wow.
Because I guess it was pretty horrendous. Now, his wife, Aunt Alice, she was just the opposite. She and very, very nice, but we didn't see him hardly ever. But she was very nice. And their kids were very nice.
Mm.
God. But again, we didn't see him very often. But now I talk to her once every 3, 4 months in a Zoom session just to get to know her. And her sister Vivian's daughter Lynn joins us on those sessions. She's in her 90s.
Wow.
She does old, not Civil War, but the 1776 war reenactments. She's a part of that. And does that a lot. She also knits caps and socks for the cancer victims. And and she's in her 90s, and she does a whole bunch of that stuff. And you get her on the phone, if you didn't know her and how old she was, you'd think, oh my God, this is a young adult.
Oh.
Because I talked to her just the other day. And her brother, Bob, He was, I think, a year older than I was. And they came to town. The one time that I remember, he wanted to go with me. We went to a dance. He wasn't there 20 minutes and he picked up a girl. Alice Lasecki. Oh my goodness. And it was just hilarious. He made a date with her. Bobby. He cracked me up. Oh God. And they did come to town once more after that, around Christmas time, I think a year later, and somebody was sick, so they wanted to. Anyway, it was my senior year of high school. And him and I went to Belotti's Pizza Garden just to get a pizza, just to go out. And the girl I was dating at the time came in. And Bobby looks at me and said, "You fixed this, didn't you?" I didn't know she was going to be here. For goodness sake, I mean, she was my girlfriend, but as I explained to your mother, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, those are the only things I remember about that family, except for Uncle Bob introduced me to cream soda. They were in town for Grandma and Grandpa Adams' 50th anniversary party, and they had it at the big hotel, the North Star in Green Bay. Is it not the North Star, but the big one over by the end of Washington Street. Oh God! And they rented a cabin along the bay. And again, we were kind of young, and we were all out there. And there's Uncle Bob, and he's the big man, Bob. From Denmark, I think. Anyway, he had these wooden cases of pop. And I got a cream soda, and I think about my fourth cream soda. He said, "You're one of Randy's kids, aren't you?" "Yes, Uncle Bob." He said, "Well, I think you've had enough of that." Oh, that was funny. But on the other side, we had our cousins in Milwaukee, the Carters. We didn't know them real well, but they'd come up for that party. And one summer they were up there, and I was over playing with my cousin Glenn and broke his foot, pushing him on his bike. Remember the brick porch in the front?
Yeah.
Well, his left foot I was pushing him on the bike, and his left foot ran right into and broke something in it. So then after that, he was playing with Tim.
Oh, man.
And then I said, "Mike's too rough." But they were my godparents, Rita and Bud. And they had a very talented family. Those girls could sing, whoa, and play music, and beautiful girls. Oh, as were all of them in that family. Oh, and there was also Uncle Dutch, but that was great Uncle Dutch. This was Dad's uncle. And Uncle Leonard, great Uncle Leonard. And there were two other great uncles in there. And living just behind us when we were on Main Street, now they weren't living there anymore, was Uncle Pete and Aunt Violet were once again Grandpa Smits' brother. And God, he was a big burly guy, and she was a little bitty delicate flower. God. When they were only a block away from us as kids, Violet and Pete. Oh, and I can remember going down there and helping them with their sidewalk. And Pete smoked cigars. So he'd come on, thanks. And if I don't know, you guys are so nice. Oh God, I think it was Randy's wedding. Randy or Susan's. Mom and Dad drove Pete and Violet. Joel probably told you this. And Joel and our cousin Bruce had been tending the beer bar. And they tended it really well. Because halfway home, Joel puked on Violet and Uncle Pete. He might have tried to get out the window. I wasn't in the car. We just heard the story. Now there was another uncle, Uncle Tony. Now I don't know him hardly at all. And one other one, I can't think of his name. He looked like my Uncle Jerome, but there's a picture of him someplace, all at Aunt Mary Jo's wedding. They all got together. Oh God, I also have a picture of the whole group of Dad's brothers and sisters and their spouses that I came across in the pictures I got from Mom and Dad, or from Joel, who got them from them. Oh man. But like I said, the Carters, nice family, really nice kids. One of the boys, Tommy, came up to Green Bay on his Harley, his big Harley hog. But at that time, I was already in Chicago, but him and Tim got to carouse around a little bit. The other Uncle Jerome and Auntie Nola, their boys, were huge athletes. I mean, Danny Joe was a big star football player, and Ricky was even a bigger star. Ricky was massive. He was tall, all shoulders, narrow waist, God, and really laid back and cool. Oh God, and didn't, not lack of ambition, just football. That's a good game. But when we were young, they were so much bigger than the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd play tackle football. They'd have 3 or 4 of us hanging on them, and they'd be giggling and laughing, walking down the field that was right behind Grandma's house. And they had 2 daughters, Betty Ann and Nancy, with a Y. And they are beautiful girls. Oh my goodness. I was the server at Betty Ann's wedding. No, Ricky's wedding. I'm sorry. Ricky's wedding, because me and my buddy Gordy were the servers at that. And Gordy kept telling me, how come all your cousins are so pretty? For God's sake. They were beautiful girls. Oh boy. Harriet and Kenny was Dad's brother. They had 3 kids, Joey, Debbie, and Lori. And Lori is the only one who's still alive out of that group. Mm. And then the other one, Danny Joe, died of cancer. And Ricky died in an accident. He was riding a motorcycle and rode head on into a car. Mm. And he was, oh God, I had only seen him 2 weeks earlier before he got killed at Club 18. So he had to be only in his early 20s when that happened, and left a wife and a son behind. And that was just a tragedy. Again, they were wonderful guys. I went to West Hippier High 1 year, and I had a study hall where he was in it, and I'd sit with him, and we didn't have a conversation. He would listen to me, and ever so often say, "Oh yeah." And he had a friend who would be with him who drove a little MG midget, who was a gabber, and he would just sit there, and he would interrupt his buddy when he said something really stupid, and he'd interrupt him with this. He was just a nice guy. Oh man. And that's all I can think of the extended family.
Wow, that's impressive. It's really neat to hear.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, and your cousin, my cousin Nancy from the Adams side, Art's daughter, I don't think she was Miss Green Bay, but was in the running for Miss Green Bay. She was a beautiful girl. Oh, God. And very smart. And I dated a gal that was in the class with her. And we met him. We were going to a pre-Monterey dance, me and my 2 buddies. That's all I did was hang around with buddies. You hang around with your boyfriends, not boyfriends, and we were going into the dance, and this girl came over. You guys want to go to a party? And me and Dell and John. sure. And we went over there, and it was a party in the basement. They didn't have enough guys there. And I met a gal, and I was talking to her the whole night. And anyway, she was a classmate of my cousin Nancy's.
Hmm.
So I go to West Green Bay. Really, my cousin goes, there's Nancy Adams. She's one of those smart people.
Hmm.
Oh, God, and I thought, I got a girl to take home. I'm going to get a kiss out of this. Got to the back door and, well, this is my house.
Hmm.
What? But anyway, she went to school with my cousin Nancy. And so apparently, yeah, Nancy was very smart. Butch, Art's other son, his name was actually Art Adams the fourth or fifth. You know, there's a whole string of Art Adams Jr., 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 Jr. He married a gal from England who passed away this past year. I know so little about him except for that he was Butch and a real nice guy. And I do know his son played Little League Baseball because I was at their house once where they were talking about it. And his brother Bruce was a big basketball player at West Green Bay High. And he got a scholarship, I think, to Nebraska, and that's a pretty big deal. But they all ended up, I think, working for their dad. And all the Butches in Green Bay, Bruce, oh, he was in Wapaka. One of their other sons was in Cleveland for a while. I don't know where he lives now. And their daughter Patty, I have no idea. All I do is ask how they all are. Yeah, they're all fine. Oh God, there are so many stories about my cousins and the things they did. And oh God, just great people, lots of fun. And when you saw them, they didn't treat you, here I was a little guy, and here's Ricky and Danny Joe there. They'd see you and they'd actually, hey! When Ricky saw me at the bar, I was with a guy and his sister, and hey, Smits! Oh, hey, Ricky! Went over and started talking to him. Now, at this point, he's married with a child. Who's that pretty girl? Ricky, you're married, for God's sakes. Well, I'm not blind.
Hmm.
Oh, and that was 2 weeks before he passed away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mm. Oh, God. Again, there was a treat in the Smits family, but just cousins that we knew we had and very infrequently spoke with.
Hmm.
Oh, God, and the one, Lynn, the one who was 90-something, I walked into Grandpa Adams' house. I had to be it had to be a junior in high school or senior. It was when they were up for Christmas. And I had never really met Lynn, even though they'd been up a couple times before. And I walked in, and she was sitting on the floor with her skirt around her, and it was like a painting. And she looked up at me and, oh, why are you my cousin?
Hmm.
She was gorgeous, just drop dead gorgeous. And she was very nice and very polite. But I think she was Susan's age, Aunt Susan. So I was just, let's see, I can't think anything more about him.
Oh, that's still fantastic.
I'll think of things later.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're gonna move on to your parents, my grandma, grandpa,
Oh,
and thinking about take some time to think about any really special memories or just stories you remember or you've heard about them.
well, I have special memories of both of them. Things like your grandfather. We had an ice rink in our backyard. It flooded. It was a low area, and it covered part of that neighbor's, part of that neighbor's, but all of our backyard. And it was a nice rink. And Dad would be out there skating. And I was so young, I had to have the skates with the two blades, and where you shuffled along.
Mm.
And I can remember watching him skating. And I was, in my mind, he was an Olympic skater doing pirouettes. But he was really good. Then he had, after that, later on as I grew up, he had to work all the time. So those things kind of fell by the wayside. But when we were young, we would go out and get Christmas trees. He would take us to teach us hunting. He had a double-barreled 16 gauge. God. We'd go out, because I can remember we were out in the woods, and Dad took that shotgun and said, "Now, Michael, you go jump on that pile of brushes. We're going to scare the rabbits right out of there." And I never thought of it, but you mean I'm bait, kind of? But he had, he was prepared only to shoot. But in hindsight, well, what if he comes out at you?
Yeah.
And oh God, he would take us down to the hill to do sledding, to push us, because we were too little to really go sledding ourselves. And they took us to Bay Beach when they had the horses riding around in a circle. I can remember getting put up in that saddle, and my legs didn't go. I was so small that they didn't go anyplace. So it could have been Dad who followed around holding me. And I loved the smell of the horse in the saddle. But on that trip, and this is a vivid memory, I got lost. I walked into the parking lot and I looked around and there was nobody I knew. And I knew exactly what to do. I started crying my eyes out. And some strangers came over. "Are you lost?" "No, my parents are lost." And I heard in the background, "Michael, is that you?" And of course the tears stopped. I said, "I don't need you." And I went running back to him. I was really young for that. That was pre-grade school. Oh man, Nita. Mom would take us over to, they had a wading pool at Bay Beach. And it was a huge circular wading pool. And she would let us go in that, and it was so much fun. And you'd go to the shoreline, but there was no swimming then. That was when it was determined that it was really polluted. So we'd go to the shoreline, and she'd point things out to us. And God, and she went swimming with us at VFW. I was, I'll bet you I was in 8th grade in that area. And I was shocked. There's my mother in a swimming suit. And she came and dove in the pool and swam across. "That's your mother, isn't it?" "That's my mother." But when she got out of the water and to see her swimming like that, I was really proud, because nobody else's parents had ever done anything like that. So that was pretty cool. And as it turned out, Dad told me she once swam across the Fox River and back at that wide point just before the dam. So that's quite a treat.
Yeah, wow.
But she was quiet and shy for the most part. And wait till your father get home, kids. Which she unluckily had to say a lot to me and Tim. Oh, God, and Randy. Oh, but all that said, that was the most wonderful. My childhood was so good that when I'd be talking about it when I was at DeVry, I had one kid say, "I'm going to borrow some of those stories." I didn't have any fun like that. But yeah, they were great parents. Oh God. Oh God. They'd take us everywhere that they could. We'd go on picnics up towards Upper Peninsula, because that's where they always wanted to move back to. And we'd stop at these little roadside places where there was one grill, and Dad would burn some burgers on that, and we'd eat it. Or sometimes Mom would have sandwiches made, bologna, you know. But I used to go with Dad up to Norway to get oleo, because it was illegal to sell oleo in Wisconsin. And we'd go get these packages, plastic packages of this white stuff with a red thing right in the middle of it. It was a little packet or something. And you'd get home and you'd have to squeeze that and then make the butter yellow. But those were neat trips. But they had friends up there, the Remendinis, that we'd go visit. And I remember one of them, and I think it was the Remendinis. Their only child, had cerebral palsy. Really a bad case of it, and could only lay on the floor. But she was fully cognizant. They told me I couldn't tell.
Well, do you feel like you're more like your mom or your dad?
Well, I'm definitely have way more of my mom's emotions. And your mother keeps, is she going to hear that? Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. She keeps reminding me that I have TSOR, just like all my brothers and sisters. But I have my dad's work ethics. In 40 years of working, I missed 3 days of work.
Oh, wow.
For being sick. And always because of Dad. And he instilled this in us. Work hard.
Yeah.
And do your best. And I forgot the question.
No, this is, if you felt more like your grandma or grandpa, your mom, your dad.
But emotionally, I'm definitely like your grandmother. Mm. Oh God, your grandfather could get in front of a bunch of people and talk up a storm, and he was real good at it. Here's Mom's conversation in front of a bunch of people. She was just shy. Mm-hmm. I have to force myself to do it. And an example is I was at McCormick Place doing a presentation, a panel discussion presentation on creating IT groups. And it was a pretty good-sized audience. And I was the first one up to give my presentation. Just like I'm doing now. I talked myself out of air. You just going along, trying to not be super nervous. I'm sweating, and I couldn't talk. I talked myself right out of air. And the girl next to me handed me a glass of water, and I took a drink, and I couldn't swallow it.
Oh my gosh.
And I forced it down. Oh God, that bubble going down, and then after that, it's okay. But I'm emotionally like your mom, but I have a lot of your grandfather's traits, or my mom and my dad's traits. And it feels a great combination. Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, before going back into more of your childhood stories you started, did your mom or dad ever say something to you that really, just stuck with you to this day? Some big aha thing or something?
I don't know that they did, Michael. There were so many of us that it was learning by seeing more than learning by hearing. What we heard from Mom, wait till your dad gets home. And from Dad, and don't get me wrong, this only happened once or twice, and well-deserved it was, go downstairs and pick out a stick. Mm. And I would pick one out, he would say, aha, and he'd go pick one out. And your Uncle Tim would be sitting at the top of the stairs going, and he wouldn't beat the heck out of us, just a couple of whacks with it. And we were, and now do you know why you got that? Yeah, Uncle Tim ratted on me. So that would be a seminal moment, I get, where I was learning something from him. And he did tell me, don't bother lying. You cannot lie. As soon as you tell a lie, your face just gives it away, and he's right. My lips get dry.
Oh, wow.
So I learned that, and he told me, and the reason you tell the truth is it never changes. And I remember that because it's right. You tell a lie, you have to tell another lie. Anyway, from mom, all she ever told us was to be nice. At least she was. She was always real nice to everybody, except for Herman Stickle, the cop, who came over to our house in the cop car looking for, I think, Randy and his friends. And he just sat in the car, honked the horn. Boy, that was a mistake. That's one of the few times I heard my mother lose her temper. She went out to Herman Stickle, and he was getting this, and he was a huge guy, great big, and he didn't like any of us kids. He left red-faced. And he did not get Randy and his friends. But from both of them, I learned that you just treat people correctly.
That's good.
And,
Nice. Well, looking at your younger childhood, is there any stories about your birth that you were told that was
oh,
anything out of the ordinary?
yeah,
Or
I was born in the cafeteria at this small hospital up in Vulcan. I think the hospital was in Vulcan, but there was another kid being born in the only one room they had there. So I was born in the lunchroom, I
wow,
think it was.
oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, and the aside from that, I was and I was baptized by someone who went on to become a Monsignor.
Oh,
They told me that when I first started doing church things, because you were going to be extra holy.
hmm. So where were you in the line of all your brothers and sisters?
Well, I was number 4
Okay, out of 12.
out of 12, 14,
Yeah,
but out of 12.
yeah.
Although I do remember the two because they were younger than me.
Mm.
Fourth, and by the time it got to the fourth, things had relaxed a little bit. Susan and Randy, by the time they got to high school, things were strict. For Barbara, a little less strict. By the time it got to me, I had to be home at a certain time, but I wouldn't come in the door and hear, where were you? What were you doing? What am I going to hear?
Mm. Being fourth in there, what was it like growing up, in the younger parts of your life?
Oh, well, for one thing, I slept with 3 other people.
Mm.
And they weren't all guys. And of course, it didn't matter, but I can remember being on the end upstairs and thinking, there's no room. And I think I was in bed with Susan and Barbara, but there were already smaller kids at that point. That was on Oak Street. God, what a great place. Oh, and another great memory from Oak Street, we had a coal furnace. And before Dad had an auger put in that would take coal from the coal bin and put it in, he'd have to stoke it. And I can remember on a cold morning, and I was pretty young, waiting to hear Dad go downstairs and stoke that and get ready for the fan to kick in. And then go over to the heating vent, which was about this tall. And in that room came up and putting a blanket over it to get warmed up. Oh God. And that room became the boys' room eventually. And it had no wall boards, just insulation, black backed insulation. And every one of us learned how to poke a little hole in that and sprinkle that crap in where your brother you were pissed at slept. Oh, God, God, those were good times.
Yeah, with that, is there any, like really cherished memories, things you miss about being a kid?
Oh, yeah. I miss the lack of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I, I, I miss me and my best friend Gordy, and this is from kindergarten on, from when we were real young, just being able to, at that age, Mom, we're going down to the creek. And we'd go down to the creek, and they didn't expect us home till, at first it was lunchtime, and then eventually it became dinner time. You don't have to be home for lunch. And we'd tell them, yeah, we're going to pack a lunch. We'd leave without
Mm.
it. um, yeah, Michael, there are tons of memories from back then, but what I miss is the lack of, uh, I guess it's responsibility or whatever you want to think of it as. No chores. We we did dishes, but that's not a chore. It's after supper, and it takes what, 10 minutes. I wasn't cutting the lawn yet. Wasn't big enough to. We had to push more. I wasn't big enough, and Randy was just big enough.
Mm.
um, yeah, that it was just the freedom of being that age at the time. But it's a time. They didn't have to go out looking for us. They didn't have to worry because we were running like wild people, and it didn't matter. Mm.
Oh, that's nice. We're gonna kind of start switching over to your brothers and sisters.
Mm.
So, amongst your brothers and sisters, did you feel a close connection to any of them, and who were they?
Well, at different times, I never felt a close connection with Susan. She was old enough that she was already working at the uh, grocery store and then at the bank as I grew into where I would have interaction. She's 5 years older than me, 6 years older than me, just enough that what I remember about her, oh God, is she was a beautiful girl. She was homecoming queen at West High. And I remember mom and dad taking me to the homecoming game. And there she is going around the field in a car, a convertible on a cold night. uh, but just me and mom. And I don't know why mom and dad took just me, but I really enjoyed it. And in the game, our cousin Danny Joe, and there was fog on the field, caught a big pass.
Mm.
And he was a big athlete. And in my mind, and I might not remember this correctly, he scored the winning touchdown. And I think he did. He was that good of an athlete. But Susan was the homecoming queen. And God, I can remember so many boys had, I get the hots for her.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember one of them at the back door crying his eyes out. But I love you. Oh God. And she but some of the boys that she I think hung around with were notoriously bad guys. Junior Secor. Oh God, he had a record player in the back of his car, spinning discs. He was pretty smooth. Driving a fairly new 58 Chevy. God.
Well, what about Randy? Any stories, connections there?
Yeah, Randy. I really like Randy, but he had his friend group, Paul Rock, Stan Fisher, Carl Hoos, Nick Bangert. They were the big guys. And me and Gordy wanted to hang around with them all the time, but they wouldn't let us because they were the big guys. Except, hey, Michael, you and your buddy want to come with us today? Oh, you betcha. And we went all the way across to where Church Hill is, and a little past that. And me and Gordy, his name's really Mike, coming over there, and Randy says, hey, hold up this fence for us. Holy crap, it almost knocked us over.
Yeah.
And then they look at us, that's it, we're done with you, go on home. And it was always things like that. Hey, you guys want to really have some fun? Come on out here. Corn is full grown. Run through that naked. That's no fun. Oh, you'll love it. Holy mackerel, it's like taking grass and covering it under your head and getting a scratch. Well, me and Gordy did it. We kept our underwear on. We were not that stupid. We were really stupid. Oh,
And
God. And they were constantly looking for ways. And one of the most famous stories, and this is a neighborhood story, Randy and Paul and Carl Hoose's youngest brother, Ricky, who was, I think, Joel's age, wanted to join their club because they had a club and they had a clubhouse and they were the big guys. And he was, oh, 8 years younger than me, 5, 6, 7, 8 years younger than us. And they told him, you can join. And I think it was Paul LaRock told him this. But first, we have to brand you. Well, I'll do that. He's going to be one of the tough guys too. And this is out in their outbuilding, which was kind of a garage right next to the house. They had him in the chair. They tied him, of course. And they got the soldering iron red hot. And they started bringing it over. And they touched him in the other arm with an ice cube. And he fainted dead away. And here were all the rest of us. He's dead. Oh my God. And all of the kids in the neighborhood, all of us boys were around. Oh my God. And then Mrs. Hoos found out. She was standing in the window or something. She came out, grabbed the dog chain, the one that the dog had been chained up with. And all of a sudden, there's Randy and Paul LaRock and Carl Hoos and Stan Fisher. Hey, you bastards are out. Whack, whack. And then the rest of us cheering her on.
oh my gosh.
Oh, God, that was fun.
Wow. What about Aunt Barb?
Oh, God. Aunt Barb, she was really a good girl. And again, a hard worker. She worked at Jacob's when I worked there at the grocery store. She was so good with money. She bought a car shortly out of high school. Oh, God, a real nice Cutlass. Oldsmobile Cutlass. It was beautiful, red 2-door. And she'd let me use it ever so often. Whoa. And as a kid, I don't know if she'd want to remember this, she pulled a Christmas Story. And I'm sure it was her who put her lips on the monkey bars in the middle of winter. Oh, God. And we had all the kids and a big kitchen table, but not enough chairs. So there were a chair on the corner and a lat, a board in between them, all smoothed down, no slivers. And I can remember Barb sitting in the middle and eating and losing her balance and going over backwards because she sat right next to me. And it was great looking down at her. Food all over her. But she has a scar on her arm from when she tipped the pot on the stove.
Oh.
Boiling water. Oh my God. And we all learned a lesson there. Oh. But, oh God. I can remember all of us, the young ones. I was a little kid, me and Susan and Barb and Randy. Tim might have been a baby. On Saturday mornings, sitting in the kitchen with Mom, or standing next to the stove, listening to Teddy Bears on Parade, a radio show. That was the precursor to television kids shows. Oh, God. And on, I think, Saturday night, we'd listen to The Lone Ranger. And, God, I think it was Tarzan. I can't remember, but Shock Theater. Oh, God. And it would be all of us kids around there. And we'd be popping popcorn in that little popcorn poppy thing. Oh, but Barb, she was, her and I were at times very close together because we're only a year and a half apart in age. Uh, but, as soon as we became teenagers, I'd come home and there she was sitting there with three other girls. They're all real pretty. Hello, get out of here.
Wow. Hey, what about Uncle Tim? Any memories to share there?
Yeah, Tim and I, we we hung around only after high school. Before that, I was Randy to him. Um, I can remember getting in trouble many times for things that I did to Tim. And it was just the way it was. You picked on your younger brother.
Hmm.
Um, but all that said, in the wintertime, we would be going sledding together and stuff like that. And we were in the house a lot together. But in the summertime, when all the friends were out and you weren't all bundled up, it was we weren't enemies or anything, but I wanted to play with my friends at that time. So,
Yeah, sure.
but after high school, I was in Chicago. I'd come home, and me and him and Mark Dorn, oh, and some of my other friends, we would go out to the bars, and we had some great times. Oh man.
Yeah, tell us some things about Aunt Beth.
Oh, well, Aunt Beth, another really good person. She's taken after grandma, after your grandmother.
Hmm.
Really a good person. Oh God, I remember she dated a guy named Bob Miner in high school. And I can remember when she met Joe Sanders, because mom didn't like Joe. I remember giving them a ride home once, and Joe said, "Your mother doesn't like me." Really? And I thought, okay. um, and she went out with us a couple times. Now, Barb, she went out to drink with us, and she actually, one night I had to call her from Kokona. Would you please come pick us up? None of us can hardly walk.
Mm.
And after that, she went out with us a few times to the bars in Kokona. But at that time, I was already in Chicago and just coming up every few weekends. But Beth, she went out with us on New Year's Eve once. She must have just turned 18, and Tim and I took her to the prom. You guys wouldn't know anything about it. It was a famous bar just across the highway on Main Street in west of Pere. Oh God, and we were having a great time and giggling and laughing. And I can remember it got to be midnight and they gave us hats to put on. And she handed me the hat, and unluckily I was holding a beer in the same hand. And I went to put the hat on and poured the beer all down my back. And I can remember her looking at me, whoa. And I don't remember what she said because I felt that stupid. But at that point, she's the start of, they're younger enough from me that I didn't spend that much time with them.
Yeah, sure.
But she was a sweetheart. Oh, pretty girl.
And what
Oh,
about Uncle Joel?
oh God, Uncle Joel. Again, he was just in the end of grade school when I left home. But when I come home, his jokes were hilarious. He told the corniest jokes. One of my friends, uh, his girlfriend's name was Audrey Aphrodite won a list on. That's her real name. And Joel was standing next to us. We were digging the sidewalk in the front of Oak Street. And I hear from Joel, want a list of my phone numbers? And those were the kind of corny jokes that he'd come up with. Uh, he was always bubbly. I was home on the weekend and sitting at the dinner table, and Joel said, "Well, I got to go out." And he put on his jacket, and this Gerber baby bottle jar fell out of it full of whiskey. Well, I guess I'm not going out. Oh God, that was funny. But I, I came home when he turned 18. Him and I hung around a little bit for a while. Oh God, we had a lot of fun. Uh, and he came down and lived with me in Chicago. I had already graduated and had a full-time job at a research lab. Oh, and he lived with me for several months, I think. And we didn't do things together. He got a job and met some people. And God, he lived in my apartment. He had a great time. And then all of a sudden he said, well, I'm going back home. And he did.
Mm.
But we had many adventures over the years, Joel and I. Oh God. We'd go fishing. We went out and did a lot of tipping of beers, not drinking, but today it would be considered in moderation. I was known as 3-beer Benny. I weighed about, when I was dripping wet, 128 pounds. I couldn't drink a lot of beer. But we would go out with his friend Mike Gofford in a chartreuse Chevy Nova, going to bars all over the place. Oh, man. Oh, and they went to Florida with me one year. I had a 67 Mustang this shortly before I met your mother. We got in that and drove to Florida. Oh, God. We didn't know what we were doing. Just drove down there. Thought we'd have some fun. We went and stayed with Randy. Oh, God. But over the years, he lived next door to us. He helped us cut down that apple tree. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
That we had Jeff Peliquin, me, Joel. I don't know if Tim was there. The tree was chained together because it was cracked and falling apart. And we got these ropes and we tied it. And we were going to pull it into our ute. And it was a fairly big apple tree. And Jeff Peliquin is there with his chainsaw. And we're pulling that. And we pulled it and it snapped and came this way and sprung straight the other way into the neighbor's yard, into her garden. Oh, God. Oh, God. And Joel, they lived next door to us. He found an old fan I think in the garage there, the shed. And he took it out and said, I wonder if this works. And he had his thumb sticking in the fan and plugged it in. Whack! And I think Lori gave him stitches on that one. Oh, God. And then there's the rat.
I remember that.
Oh, God. Joel came over. You've got a cat. And I've got a rat over. It's on the first floor. Can you come over? And we took the cat over. The cat was scared to death because go get that rat. But we started chasing that rat. Me and Joel. I had on boots, not waders, but hip boots. And so did Joel. And I had a broom. And he had something else, an ice pick. One of us had an ice pick. The other one had the broom. We trapped that rat behind this heating thing. And I can remember one of us stabbed in the ice pick. And God, this thing is strong. It's pushing the ice pick out. Well, the ice pick was in the broom. So then Joel says, I'm getting my 22. And Lori said, no, you're not. But meanwhile, the cat is hiding. And Joel and we've got tennis rackets, a net, and we're chasing that thing all over the place. And Mom is laughing her butt off. Finally, it ran into a little beer cooler thing, a soft side, and we zipped it shut and stomped on it. And then, got him! God, that was funny.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. It was good living next to them. It was good
it was.
memories.
Oh, God.
Hey, what about Aunt Sally?
Well, Aunt Sally, she was way too young for me to know when I was in college. I'd come home and she'd tell me things like, I lost your baseball glove. Really? the one I've had since I was 10, you lost. She bought me another one. But when I got married and we moved up here, we became very close with Sally and Brad after they got married. And we for quite a while, we were inseparable. And nothing happened between us emotionally, just life changed. Um, we had the children, they had the children. Oh God, Brad was working all the time, I was working all the time. And we'd still get together for Thanksgiving and Easter and Christmas. Easter was at our house, Thanksgiving was at your house. And Jan and I, before each Thanksgiving, say, hey, let's have a Martha Stewart Thanksgiving. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
The turkey never got done.
Yep. It was well after 8.
Yeah. And Jan was starving. Oh, God. And we'd go out to your place out on Double P, was it? And there was that ice skating rink. Did you see your dad ice skating? Well, you missed it. Oh, it was, your mom can really ice skate. Your mom was decent at ice skating, and I could ice skate. Your dad could shuffle. And honestly, it was this. And finally, we had to stop because he was sweating so hard. But we were just great friends. Every birthday, mine, Jan's, Sally's, and Brad's, we met at Cafe Olay. What a time we had. And with you kids, oh God. And the cherry bounce Thanksgiving. Holy mackerel, did Brad and I get yelled at. Your mom and Brad made cherry bounce. Whoa. It was lethal. And we sat upstairs watching football, drinking cherry bounce. Oh, God, that was so much fun. And all the times were fun. But again, we were adults by the time we got to really know each other.
Yeah.
And you wanted to be their kid, and Tyler wanted to be our kid. Because each of you thought the other's house was Disney World.
I remember that.
Oh. And then Aunt Mary Jo.
Yeah, Aunt Mary Jo.
She was so much younger. And we, again, as an adult, I got to know her because of Erin and her son, Clint. When she was, we started to hang around. Not so much with her and her first husband, Jeff, because we left for Tampa, but when we came back, we hung around with Mary Jo and Paul quite a bit. And we had a lot of fun. Oh, God. And one year, Mary Jo and Jan were going to have a competition to see who could grow the biggest pumpkin. Well, that didn't work out very well.
I remember that.
But again, it was funny. And we were very close friends. We got to get together and have fun. But she was a young enough sister that I really didn't know her very well at all.
Oh, well, what about Aunt Teresa?
Oh, God. Aunt Teresa, she does some of the neatest things. Again, she's so young. Teresa, Pam, and Holly were babes when I left. Didn't know them at all. But at Christmas time, God, our grandmother came over and gave us all like pajamas. She gave Teresa pantyhose. Pantyhose or something like that. I forget what they're called. Leotards, maybe. Well, aren't you going to try those on, Teresa? Oh, sure. Right in front of everybody. That was hilarious. Oh. But she's a wonderful girl. Oh, God. She has the kindest heart. Aunt Pam was such a firecracker. What I remember about her is her bouncing all over the place. She's like bouncing off the walls as a little kid. And I'd only see her on holidays when I'd come home from Chicago. But I do remember sitting in the living room on Oak Street, and Dad telling me, no, Pam asked me to join her for a tea party. And I was going to go out with my buddies. And I hear from behind me, you will.
Mm.
Okay, Dad. So I sat on the floor, and I had fun watching her be goofy, just sparkling. Oh, let me pour you some of this, let me pour you some of that. Oh, here, you want some of this? And it just went on, and I really did enjoy it. And over the years, it was just fun to watch her giggle and laugh. And she was very vivacious, the only blonde in the family.
Mm.
Except for my cousin Lynn, but Pam was the only blonde, and I never thought about that. But it's a recessed gene, I'm sure. Oh, God. And she's, again, a wonderful girl.
Mm.
Or was. Boy, and she could curse like a sailor. And her, just like your mother, and do not take crap from anybody. See what oh yeah? Whack! Oh, God. But again, she was a wonderful girl.
Well,
Holly?
Aunt Holly.
Oh, she literally was a baby when I left home. I remember when she was born, and I remember when she has Down syndrome. And when I looked at her, I said, oh, well, I recognize that. She may have had Down syndrome, but she was just a regular sister over the years. I'd come home, and she'd want to snuggle up with you. Oh, God, and she wanted to do this with you. And all of us, everybody, well, of course. Oh, God, she was my wrestling buddy. Mm-hmm. Remember? We rented the pay-per-view. Oh, God, was that ever good. That's another thing about Pam and Teresa. I took them and Dad. Pam and Teresa asked me, would you take us to see some wrestling? I took them to the arena and Dad. And we saw Wahoo McDaniels arm wrestle somebody. But the final match was the Crusher and the Bruiser against Dirty Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch. That's when Dusty Rhodes was the bad guy. Oh, God, and Dad, this was maybe 3 hours into it, and Dad was getting a little antsy because the other guys before that were not big name, and it wasn't really that exciting, but the Crusher got up. He had got them, give me that microphone. He says, I'm the Crusher, I'm out of Milwaukee, and I work out every day. And I take 2 barrels of beer, 1 on each shoulder, and I go for a run. And when I'm done, the barrels are empty. And Dad started laughing. Well, they started wrestling. And they were bouncing all over the place and really putting on a great show. And everybody was applauding, and I was laughing, and Pam and Teresa were laughing. But the Crusher and the Bruiser took Dusty Rhodes and threw him up against the ropes. Now, usually they put a shoulder into the guy when he comes off the ropes. Well, the Bruiser put both of his thumbs in his eyes. Everybody got disqualified, and I looked over at Dad, and there were tears rolling down his cheeks. He said, Michael, I never knew this was so colorful. And we just laughed our butts off. But Holly wanted to go see the Hulk. So me and Pam and Scott sat for 4 hours and 15 minutes on those wooden chairs. Oh my God, were they? But it was worth it. The Hulk came out, and Holly reached over and hugged me so hard. And it was another fight that was just hilarious. He fought the Ultimate Warrior with the long blonde hair, and they threw each other out of the ring. And the second time, the guy jumped out of the ring with them. And they wrestled and fought all the way down the aisle, knocking down all the fake partitions. And it was just great. And Holly was screaming her head off. And But then one of the own Hart died in an accident, and she gave up wrestling. And she talked to me, and I think it was on a phone call. I want to give you something, and I got a picture of her handing me her wrestling memorabilia. It was all these pictures of all these in notebooks or 3-ring binders. I still have that at home. But we rented that wrestling match on 4th Street, and you guys came over, and the Kaziks were there. God. But Tim and I, we'd go up hunting and take Holly to the Crest Bar, Sunset, one of those bars up there. Holly, you want to go and have beer with us? Yeah. And we'd get there, and honest to goodness, we'd give her $10 and start buying rounds. She would leave with $20. And she just had a riot, and we had a blast doing it with her. You know, I always thought Mom and Dad were blessed to have her, because she was that much of an influence on their life and all of our lives. And it also gave us the opportunity to see everybody's not the same. Good girl.
Well, thinking of all your brothers and sisters, kind of putting them in little lists, who do you think was the most talkative?
Joel.
Okay.
It's easy.
Who surprised you the most?
Oh, God. I don't know that I have an answer for that.
That's fine.
You know, Randy, by joining the Marines, that was so out of character. But I think he was pushed. But that surprised me.
Okay.
I expected Barb and Susan and Tim to turn out exactly as did. We were just hardworking stiffs from a hardworking stiff family.
Who do you think might have been the worst roommate?
Oh, God, Joel. And you know what? No, it could be Tim. Either one of them. I had to sleep in the same room with them. Tim was a hugger. Oh, and I was in bed with him. Oh, God, get off of me. And Joel did this all night long. All night long. You asked Tim, we'd go over, boom, stop it.
Oh, who made you laugh the most?
Oh, Joel.
Okay.
Easily Joel. I mean, the Gerber bottle full of whiskey. And I'm home for the weekend from college. You're an idiot. God, and the fan. Whop.
Wow. Who do you think may have had the most fun in high school?
Joel.
Okay, wow. And so switching more to you and thinking about, you growing up, any good friends?
Oh, God, Gordy. Mike George. I met him my first day of grade school, or kindergarten. They lived, do you remember Fort Howard Avenue? Right on the corner where it gets close to Main Street and S corner, this corner, they lived in the apartment above his grandparents. And about the second or third day of kindergarten, you want to meet my dad? Sure. And we went over there. And you walked up, and your heads kind of popped up into where they were. And his dad worked at the mill on the swing shift. And his dad was sleeping. That's my dad. And the next thing I heard was, God damn it, Joyce, I told you to not let the kids come up here. But we were best friends from that day forward. I picked him up every morning for school. Once we were able to walk, we did everything together. Oh God, our plan for when we got older was to buy a farm and raise dogs and horses, and that was going to be it. Oh man, I learned that a family can yell, and it's not that they don't like each other; it's just them, because his father taught me and another one of my friends, Lee Case, how to play cribbage. We'd stop over there, and my friend Mike would do something that was a little foolish and thing his dad would think, and they'd get into a row. And at first it scared me, but then I just got used to it. Or we're sitting there playing the cribbage one day, and Mike's mother sneezes. And this is in the kitchen. We're all in the kitchen. And she sneezes. And nobody says anything. And all of a sudden I hear, "God damn it, God bless me." And then Mr. George says, "Well, I was contemplating, for God's sake." And then it's back and forth, yelling at each other. And by that time, me and Lee are just sitting there playing cards. It just, the family was that way. God, and he was a good kid. He's one of those kids that you could trust everything he said. And he didn't have a mean bone in his body. He stopped me from being mean many times. "Don't do that, Smitty." "Okay." I mean, he just was a nice kid. And oh God, we went to the creeks together. We went to the woods together. Oh God, we went on our first date together.
Oh, wow.
Oh God, what a disaster. I should tell this. It's a classic. We were, I think, sophomores in high school. It was summertime. And early in summer, we met two girls, friends from Alloway. Alloway girls are easy. And then this is back in the early 60s. And, we had never had a date. We had never even kissed a girl, never held hands with a girl, for God's sakes. And we built up the courage over the summer to ask them to the fair. Gordy's dad drove us there. Oh God, but we had planned the whole thing out. We were going to get away with something. And we were going to find out what the mystique was about bazooms. And we were going to find out. So I said, "I'm going to take my date on the rocket ship. You know, the one that spins around. And I'm going to fall right into her." We got on the rocket ship, went around once, and I threw up. but I'm on a date, so I'm holding it in. But some sneaks out, and I'm swallowing it. Ah, God! You know, you're a young kid, you know, and you're on your first date. Anyway, we got out. There was a little bit in her hair, kind of big hair. So we got out, and of course, Gordy's giving me this crap. "You did really good, Smitty." They went in to clean up. I think I went over to the cow barn and chewed some manure to get the taste out of my mouth. But Gordy's plan, we were going to go on the merry-go-round, because he said the horses go up and down, and I'm going to hold her waist, and it'll go up. But my hands are going to stay there. And I thought, wow, that's a great idea too. But my date said, "Well, you were sick. We got to sit in this chair." You know, that bench they have. So I'm sitting on this bench. And Gordy's over there with his date. The merry-go-round starts going around. Now, I was a good Catholic. Gordy was a spectacular Catholic. His hands never left where they were on that gal. But in his mind, because I looked at him, and honest to God, he was smiling so hard, he was like watching Bert from the Sesame Street. I thought his face was going to split in half with that grin. Oh, God, it was just, everything we did was wrong. But so my dad picked us up to take them home. We dropped both girls off, and I think mine was dropped off last. And we're all sitting in the front seat, you know. And Dad says, "Did you kiss him goodnight?" And both of us, "No." And Dad says, "Well, Mike," and he was talking to Mike George, "I'm going to have to call your father." He pokes me. He says, "Your dad going to really call me?" "Oh, yeah, you better get home and tell your dad." Well, that dumbass. He gets home and tells his dad everything. The rocket, our plans, what we were going to do. And I'm at home and the phone rings. And one of my sisters goes, "Hey, Dad, it's Mr. George for you." And I thought, "Oh, God." I finally come walking into the kitchen, and Dad is vibrating. He's laughing so hard. And he looked at me. He's laughing. But he's keeping it in a little bit. The Holy Spirit entered his body, and everything went stiff, and a stern-faced look came over him. And he looked down at me and said, "I don't ever want to hear about you taking a girl on a merry-go-round." And when he walked past me, he was still shaking. And that was our first date, and honest God, that almost ruined girls for us for the rest of our lives.
You said almost. Can you tell us, if you can, think back to your first love?
This is going to sound like BS, but I had girls that I really liked, and I did. And some broke up with me, some I broke up with, and here's how crushed I was. "Oh, you're breaking up with me. Who's next?"
Sure.
But when I met your mother, the whole world changed, and that's the truth. I only met her for 2 days, and I can't explain the feeling, but it was something I'd never felt before, and it wasn't physical. It was just a whole aura of feeling that encompassed me. And I dropped her off at her house and drove to work, 17 and a half hours to get to work on time. Got off of work and called your grandmother and said, "I met the girl I'm going to marry." And that's the truth.
Mm.
And of course, your grandmother said, "That's nice."
Yeah, I can see that. So how'd you meet? How'd you meet my mom?
I was in Florida. I was supposed to be going to a wedding. It got called off. Reason doesn't matter. I was going to drive out to Texas. Found out it was called off. So I went and told my boss, "I'm going to go down to Florida to visit my brother." This was just before the 4th of July weekend. I got down there. I met a girl on the beach. Cute little blonde. Took her out for a date. Double dated with Randy. Went to an outdoor. I couldn't even tell you what the movie was. Not because anything was happening, just because I didn't care. And then we were going to go out the next night, and your Uncle Randy said, "I've got a girl you got to meet." And I said, "No, I got a date." He said, "No, I got a girl you got to meet." And he called her up, and she said, "No, I'm not going out with your brother." And finally, he talked her into it. I had been body surfing the day before and scraped all the skin off this part of my body. The nose all the way up to my forehead was just raw.
Mm.
And on a pair of bell bottoms with paisley inserts, a surfer t-shirt, oh God, hair down the middle of my back, a Fu Manchu mustache. He finally talked her into it. We went over to pick her up. I had a 67 Mustang that I really liked. She said, she looked out the window and said, "I'm not going out with him." And her mother said, "You're not going out with him." The door opened and she came out as soon as her mother said she couldn't.
Mm.
She came out and she was just gorgeous in a perfectly done pantsuit or jumpsuit or something with a neckerchief around her neck, and her hair was up in a bun on the top of her head. And she was just beautiful, and there I am, dressed like a bum. And after I called your grandmother to tell her I was going to marry this girl, I called your mom, but it took me about a half hour. I couldn't bring myself to the guts to dial the last number. I just kept go back and I called her, and her mother answered. Now her mother, the only thing she had ever said to me before that was when I dropped her off, she told me to get the hell out of here and don't you ever come back. She answered the phone, and I said, "Chandler." Apparently she didn't recognize my voice. She wouldn't know my voice. Anyway, your mother was in the shower, but your grandmother went and got her, and she came out. And I said, "This is Mike." And I was wondering, would you like to move up here to Chicago with me? Well, yes. And I just about pooped. And so I'll buy you a ticket. And I sent her a ticket down to Tampa, and she got a ride to the airport. And the happiest day of my whole life is I'm in O'Hare Field, or O'Hare Airport, looking out at the airplane, and I see her coming down the steps and walking across that. And honest to God, I was jumping up and down. But I had shaved, and she got in there, and where's the guy? But that was how it, and 2 weeks later we were married. Mm.
Yeah. Well, what's the story behind that?
We were both prudes. Oh, and one morning I woke up and she was crying. She said, "You promised we'd go down and get our marriage license." "Oh, I'm sorry, but we're going to visit." So I, well, let's go. And we went downtown. We took the subway downtown because we're in Chicago. Got off, went over to the Cook County Courthouse, which is where the Blues Brothers went, and got our license. And we were walking out to go get wedding rings. And I said, "We're down here. We could get married." So we walked over to the judge's room, or whatever it's called, and went in and said, "We'd like to get married. Do you have your license?" "Yeah, right here." "Well, you just got it." "Yep." And I think it cost $10 for the license, and then 10 more to get married. Not much. And we went in. And he said, "Okay, where are your witnesses?" Okay, there'll be $5 more for my secretary. And we got married. Again, she looked perfect. I was dressed up a little bit better, but not much better than my usual fare. The ceremony took all of 2 minutes, and we walked out of there, and I'm sure the judge and the secretary were going, "I'd bet 5 months."
Wow.
But we walked out of there and went over and bought wedding rings. And we got home, and her brother, who was like 6'2", in a sailor's uniform, knocks on her door. "Is Jan Garrett there?" And I look up at him. "You mean Jan Smits?" We had just got married. Oh, God. God. I guess that would be a whirlwind romance, which is still going on.
That's crazy.
Oh,
So, now you guys were married. How did it feel when you became aware your first child was coming into the world?
oh. Keep in mind, Michael, I'm from a family of 12.
Yeah.
I thought, well, it's about time. And I think it's pretty much what I thought. I was very happy. And your mother was very happy. But we didn't want to have children. But we decided that we would like to have children. Kind of. Everybody was having children at the time. And, and we did. Oh, God. And at the same time, we bought the house on Volker Street. Oh, man. And I was playing softball for a place called the Circle Tap out in Denmark. And I remember I went to a tournament, and we drank, our game got canceled. So me and the whole team just sat there drinking beers. I got home a little tipsy, and then your mother said it was time. "It's time." So I took her to the hospital, got her in there, and they sent me home. They said, "It's going to be a while. Looking at you, why don't you go home and we'll call you?" And but it was a different time. You didn't get to watch your children be born. So I got up the next morning, went to the hospital, got in the waiting room, and they couldn't find me. They're walking all around that area, Mr. Smits, Mr. Smits, and I couldn't hear them. It was exciting. And the same when she was pregnant with you a year later.
Hmm.
Oh God! And, and at that time, you get to watch your children be born. And I can remember being in there. And the doctor at this time was the man from Glad. He had white hair, looked like just like a, and they induced for you because he was going someplace for Thanksgiving. And she was right, she was full term anyway. But I was in there. I don't remember watching, but I remember when they said, "This is the boy," I jumped and my mask came off and hit me right in the eye. Oh God. Oh, and that's the same time at the hospital that your mom and dad came up. And your dad fainted. And there's your dad being rolled out of the maternity ward in a wheelchair. Oh God, that was funny.
Mm.
Mm, good times.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your three kids.
Oh God. God, they're all wonderful children. We're very proud of them. Uh, they've had good times, bad times, but mostly good times. Michelle lives with us now. How lucky are we?
Mhm.
Aaron and his family are doing great. He was in the Navy, which I think he thinks was just a spectacular time, but he had an accident and really hurt his shoulder. So he got out. Anyway, him and Megan are doing great. And of course, you and Missy are doing just great. You have a spectacular daughter.
Mhm.
We have two other spectacular grandchildren, and we feel very lucky to have been where we were at their age. We got to spend a ton of time with them, and we're really sorry we didn't get to spend the same amount of time with Sophie.
Oh, sure.
But they came over and would spend weekends with us. Oh, and when Aaron hurt his shoulder, we had chance for a month and a half in Montgomery. And that was quite a treat because he was recovering and he couldn't take the chance. Oh, God, that was a lot of fun.
So, as a parent, can you think of one or two moments you were pretty proud of?
Oh, God, Michael, your graduation from college.
Hmm.
When we walked in there and you had all these ribbons and all that stuff on you.
Hmm.
Holy mackerel. That was really incredible. And then also when Aaron graduated out of boot camp or whatever it was in the Navy, we went down for that. And then took him and his buddy out. And his buddy puked in his cap.
Yeah.
We went and took him out for can we go eat some food? And we took him to a all you can eat place, and all they could eat was fried food. And we're driving to go to the Museum of Science and Industry, and he puked in his cap. All of it in the cap. Didn't get any in the car. He said, "I'll get a new cap." Oh God. And Michelle in track and as a cheerleader and in high school, and her being smart enough that when she knocked the muffler off of the Oldsmobile to come in the house crying, "Oh, Dad, I don't know what happened." And she's holding the muffler. We find out a week later, did she survive? We saw her backing out of our driveway out in the country doing about 40. And she went off into the field.
Mm.
Or standing in line at the grocery store. And the lady behind us saying, "I can't believe you let your daughter have a beer party at your house." Well, we were gone that weekend. And we get home, Michelle. Oh, God.
Mm.
And you and your friends. I mean, it's always a treat to have you come over. But Steph, pushing the buttons on your mother
Yep,
and then
yep.
walking out of the house. Oh, for God's sakes.
Those are good times. A lot of good memories.
Oh, God, they were. You guys went through the pickle jars. Those homemade pickles, whoa.
Yeah.
We did 50 some quarts, I think. Whoa, were they good. Uh, but yeah, then you guys would go downstairs, hooting and hollering and drinking caffeinated Mountain Dew. It's just what you guys needed, bouncing off the walls.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fun.
and you and Jeff Swinty and Puddle.
Oh yeah, I remember that well.
Oh
That's so
God.
funny.
Well, it was. I'm sure you guys
No,
didn't
we didn't
think.
like it at the time, but
No. Hey, you guys want to ride? No. A couple minutes later, a car goes right through a puddle and splashes. and your mother looked at me and said, "That was funny." And we laughed all the way across the bridge. Oh God.
you briefly mentioned your three grandkids. And what is it like being a grandparent?
It is. Yeah, I gotta tell you, it's more fun than being a parent. Um, for the obvious reason, you feed them coffee and chocolate and send them home. I'm kidding about that, but uh, you do send them home, and but you still feel as responsible as if they are your children, they're your grandchildren. It was a really great experience, and like I said, because we spent so much time with them, it was nice. And I still do things with Eris, but not as much.
Mm-hmm.
Chance, he's off at college, and he's an adult now, so
Oh yeah.
yeah, hi, Grandpa. But they're good kids. And Sophie, we know so little about her, but
Mm-hmm.
just in talking with her this morning, it's amazing how smart she is, and how she is like her grandmother, has never met a stranger. She can talk to anybody, and she can talk, and that's a great ability to have.
Mm-hmm.
And she's doing just great. Of course, Chance, he graduated, I think, 4.0,
Yeah.
and he got scholarships to college and is still doing just great. And he's a senior next year. That's incredible. And Eris is working and trying to save up. She might want to go to school. She might not want to. She's got a boyfriend.
Yeah.
When
Heard
I
about
found
that.
out about that, what about me, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the guy who buys ice cream for you and gets donuts with you, for goodness sakes. Oh, man.
Oh well. These next set of questions are just kind of life questions. We're gonna be spotty and just
Hmm.
no themes necessarily. But you ever go hitchhiking?
Oh, yes. I hitchhiked from Chicago to Madison. Oh, man. My buddy and I bought a motorcycle, but we had to get a suitcase up to Madison. We were going up to spend the weekend with his sister, because Madison was party town. Oh, my God. 18-year-old drinking. Um, I said, listen, I'm not going to carry that suitcase on a Honda 300 Dream all the way to Madison. So he dropped me off on the Highway 90. I stuck out my thumb and a cop pulled over. You can't hitchhike on this highway. Well, where can I? And he said, I don't care, just not here. But I had Wisconsin written on the suitcase. And I walked up to the exit ramp. And I was just sitting there looking like sad sack. And this gal pulled over with her children in this station wagon. Are you going to Wisconsin? She said, yeah, I'm going to Madison. Well, we can take you as far as Lake, where the Playboy Mansion,
Lake Geneva.
Lake Geneva. And I didn't know how close that was. I said, that's great.
Mm.
So not only did she drive me there, she bought me lunch.
Oh wow.
Because I was in the back entertaining her kids. They were a bunch of dumb kids. We were just goofing off. I was a dumb kid too. And I got out of that, and I stuck out my thumb, and a guy pulls up in a muscle car. Oh God, flat black, big slicks on the back. You all right? Oh my God, yeah. I'm going to Madison. I'll take you there, and I'll take you there quick. We were on Highway 12. Oh my goodness! He just about, the car leapt when he popped the clutch, and he raced all the way to Madison. And I got off at Madison and called his sister's place, and they came over and picked me up, and Carl was there laughing. Couldn't hitchhike, huh? God, that was the last time I tried to hitchhike for any distance. But we used to, as kids, we hitchhiked every place. And you could. We hitchhiked just to go across the Deep Pier Bridge. And think about that. That's a half a mile, for God's sakes.
Mm-hmm.
But there, after school at Penning's, there would be 20, 30 kids lined up there hitchhiking. And cars would stop and pick up the first ones and take them across. God. Oh, God, that was when I was dating and didn't have a car in the middle of winter, walking a girl across that bridge. Oh, that was brutal. Oh, God. You want to walk me home? And I should have thought of it and said, no. God.
Oh. In school, did you have a class you liked?
Oh, yes. American history. I hated the subject. The teacher, he would get up to the blackboard and say what he was writing through the whole class. But it was Father Kempen, a local priest. And he went to school with my mom and dad. And his nickname was Tuffy. And he had a crush on your grandmother.
Mm.
She gave me a note he sent her in grade school. And he was a great guy. He used to take us to play basketball in the gymnasium. He'd open it up for us. He had no athletic ability. His layup started at half court and consisted of 20 steps. But he was a wonderful man. And he asked me a question, an American history question. I said, I don't know that, but I know something that you did when you were a kid. And I got up and stood up and said, this is from you to my mother. And read it, and he jumped over his table. He vaulted over it and tackled me and was pulling the hair out of my chest. Give me that note. But it was a boring class, but he made it fun. God.
Nice. Well, your jobs. Do you remember your first? What was your first job?
Oh, after college?
Take it as what you thought was your first job.
Well, my first job, when I moved to Chicago, I went to school part-time at night and had a full-time job at a manufacturing place where we made exhaust extensions, baby moons. We made little hibachi grills. It just made all kinds of bric-a-brac. And they put me on a punch press making baby moons. But again, from my dad, I had the work ethics. And for several months, I was always there, and it was boom, pow, boom, pew. Finally, I went to my boss and said, I can't do it. The world is caving in on me doing that. So he put me out on the dock, unloading trucks using a forklift. With the gas, the natural gas or whatever. And I loved it. Flying all over the place, delivering these exhaust pipes and all these other parts, and talking to all these truck drivers that were so full of BS. It was just great. And it was a never the same job. You did things in between when trucks weren't there. But I got to do that until I clipped a spigot with the back of the forklift and sprayed water all the way across the... I can remember old Abe Mathewson, the owner. I won't say the word. You're going to work on a dock, but you can't drive that damn forklift anymore. So I quit.
Do you have a favorite job?
Yes, I do. When I was in high school, my favorite job was at Jacob's grocery store. Family owned. They were wonderful people. I worked with just great people. Um, we did a lot of things together. And it was just very nice. I was carry out slash stock boy. So I got to talk to people all the time. And you'd be carrying out, oh God, ever so often it'd be one of the pretty girls and her parents.
Mhm.
It was just, it was very social. It was hard work. Was every day after 3. And every Saturday, of course, Sundays, everything was closed. Oh man. And it got me out of detention sometimes. Uh, I got a detention, Father Fenzel, but I got a job. Okay, Mike. Don't get another detention. Okay. Yeah.
Do you have a talent you wish you had?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish I could play music.
Oh, sure.
Your mother doesn't even like dancing with me. I have no rhythm. We took lessons with your mom and dad.
Mhm.
We took 3 sets 11 of lessons. One with your mom and dad, one with Joel and Lori, and one with Paul and Dan Knaus. The Right after the dance lessons ended, we went to the best of the big bands at St. Norbert's. Your dad was playing in the band. We got out on the dance floor and we were going to do the swing. The first move, spun her around and stepped right into her and almost knocked her over. Hit her face first with my face, and I hear, "Didn't you learn a damn thing?" Yeah, I wish I could play an instrument, but I tried.
Mhm. Did you ever have a celebrity crush?
Oh God, yeah, Anne Margaret. Oh boy, hubba hubba.
Mhm.
You know, she was the she was the hot tamale. Holy moly! That I mean, there were the Bridget Bardots and the Marilyn Monroes, but boy, that was a one good-looking gal. Till I met your mother.
Well, tell me about some of your hobbies, some of your interests.
Oh, well, for a while it was fishing,
Mhm.
and it was. I took you kids fishing at Stiles. I was the only guy I know who uses a fly rod with a sinker. But we did that for a while, and I um, did quite a bit of fishing on the Fox with Tom. We fished and drank buckhorn beer because it was the cheapest. Saved a guy's life while we were doing it. We
Yeah, tell
were
that story. I remember that.
Well, Tom and I, and we mentioned to the police after, that guy's lucky he didn't come in about an hour later because we'd have just waved at him. But it was spring, and the locks were open, and the water was just rushing. Oh God, it was, and all of a sudden we hear everybody, a bunch of people yelling from up on the bridge. We're right below it, and they're pointing, and we look, and there's his head and these arms going over the waves. And Tom, it was automatic. He started the motor. We didn't pull our lines in. We just got going, got over there. And this is the truth. I reached in and grabbed that guy and picked him up out of the water with one hand and threw him in the boat. Um, and I don't know how I did it. It's a couple 100 pounds. And I sit him down on, how'd you fall off of there? And Tom was headed towards the fairgrounds. And he looks at me and he says, I just want to die. And I looked at Tom, oh, over to the shore right now. And we pulled him in, and the police came. First, they went to the fairgrounds. We saw him going down there, and I'm sitting there talking to this kid, and it's just a kid. He's, maybe 20. I don't know. And I hear from Tom Lemron. Well, the Katzenjammer kids are driving this rescue squad over to the fairgrounds. I'm waving at them. So we sat there talking to him. I wrapped him up in my jacket because it was cold. It was springtime. And I just kept talking to him about anything but what he had just done. And they took him away, and we got a plaque. And the next day at the newspaper, I was working at the Press Gazette. Understand you saved someone, because they had heard about it. I said, yeah, you can write it up. We don't write up suicide attempts. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But that was an exciting maybe only 60 seconds. And then it was a kind of scary drive back to shore.
Mm. Yeah, I remember that. Now that you're retired, what do you like to fill your time with?
Oh, your mother and I are golfing right now. I never thought I'd like it, but I'm not good at it at all. But I really like doing it. We're outside. I'm getting a little better at it, but your mother's with me, and she goes walking through the wood looking for balls, and we have thousands of them. We gave them away to the kid next door for him to sell. Um, I'll never have to buy any, but I enjoy it, and we've been going almost 5 days a week. She's going to not be going on Fridays now because I think it's going to be too much for her, but gets her out walking, gets me out walking, gives me the chance to be frustrated because it is frustrating. How can you miss that? And I listen to from behind me, you know, you're supposed to aim at that thing up there. Or I walk back and, you missed the ball completely that time, didn't you? No, that was a practice swing. um, and in the wintertime, oh God, we'll shoot some pool. Your mother bought me that pool table. It's a real nice pool table. We'll shoot 4 or 5 games of pool at night and then play some darts. And just we like to play cribbage, anything to keep our minds going. Uh, we try not to be couch potatoes because it would be so easy to do. It's so easy after supper to sit down and say, that's it.
Mm.
We get together with some people and play cards. But we're enjoying it. But the best part is I enjoy being with her and doing these things with her. So I
Mm.
guess I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Of course, I think she's the lucky one.
So, not including any family things, just personally, what's something you're really proud, one of your greater achievements maybe to think
Oh
about?
man, I got to be a vice president at Gannett, just at that level, director/vice president, and in the end, I was in charge of all of the production for all of the Ohio newspapers and a phone book up in Michigan. I'm proud of that as an accomplishment, and I got a diamond ring from Gannett. Every year they give out a diamond ring, and I got it for the best director of technology. And also I got to, like at the McCormick place, I got to give that presentation, and that was a big deal. Well, I also got to do the same thing for presses in Washington at the big conference center there. And I know it was a big place because in the room across the hall from me was Tom McCann, speaking as he was getting ready to try and run for presidency. And I was really proud of that. I sent the magazines with the story about me and all that up to your grandmother, and she got a kick out of it. So I feel I accomplished as much as I could with my limited education in this field that I went into.
Mm-hmm.
But I found out that I really liked it, but being a manager meant you had to be a bit of an asshole. You had to have tough skin, and some people didn't appreciate that when we started doing layoffs and things. I would argue and find jobs for all of the guys that I was supposed to cut. And I did. I only fired 3 guys. One, because he was a total fool and was fighting. And another one because he was always skipping work. And he called in one day and said, I can't come to work because my aunt died. And his boss said to him, well, it's got to be your immediate family. And then he said, well, then I'm sick. And he came in the next day and he said, well, you're sick and you're fired. But I was a little bit too soft or too much of a friend to the guys. I had hundreds of guys working for me, and was a little too nice to most of them.
Hmm.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah. Has anything in your life turned out differently than you expected?
I and I've discussed this with your mother. I had no expectations.
Hmm.
I had none. When I met her, I was just having fun, and that's all I was doing. I I expected to be a technician. Yes, that turned out exactly how I had anticipated until I got into management. My plan was to work networks, build servers. I built a server in the back of a van using car batteries as a power because we had a tornado go through and knock out a server farm. So that was my plan. I really enjoyed doing the technical aspect of it.
Oh. Um, if you could ask your parents, either or both, one question now, do you have one?
Oh, I would give anything for a half hour with my dad.
Hmm.
I had it with my mother. I took her out when she was at Angel's Touch. Oh, and I took her walking around with her in the wheelchair and just told her how lucky I was and how proud I was of her and what wonderful childhoods we had and what a great time. I'd give anything to be able to tell my dad that, but I didn't. He died suddenly, and I no questions I'd ask them because they did everything they could for us. But I wish I could tell him how proud I am. I told Pam to tell him when she gets up there.
Hmm.
Mm.
Wow. I'm going to still ask him, but I think I kind of got a beat on him. Is there anything in your life you'd want to change?
And there's all easily say buy Apple stock.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anything in my life would change. Yeah, when I was a kid, and I don't know why I did this, there was a kid riding by on a bike. And as a kid, I knew, and I really didn't like him. He was the brunt of a lot of people. And the guy I was with, I wanted to impress him, so I reached out, grabbed the steering wheel, and knocked him over. And to this day, oh, I feel horrible about it.
Hmm.
And another time, I was fishing with one of my friends over by the Brown County Court golf course, and there were some kids across the river. And my friend said, "I'm going to see if I can hit one." Well, I did, right in the head.
Hmm.
uh, right, boink, and he started crying. And I thought, why did I do that? But that would be it. Just a couple of mean things I did that I really regret having done.
Oh. Can you think of any of the bigger challenges you've experienced in your life?
Oh, God, Michael, when I took a job, every time I took a new job, I didn't know that I could do it. It was more than I thought I had the ability to do, but I knew to get the ability, I had to do that.
Hmm.
So yeah, taken into a scary position with three little kids, the technical things. Even though you go to school, you don't learn what you're doing until you get on the job. So yeah, that was a challenge.
Sure. Sure. Is faith important part of your life?
Oh, I believe in an afterlife, a God, but I went to Catholic school, Catholic high school,
Mhm.
and what church meant to me was at first snapping the hat hangers and pissing off Dad. Because I was 5 kids away from him. Snap! I the actual group, the church. I don't really have any feeling one way or another.
Mm.
Your mother wanted to go back. We went back for a while. She punched me when I was humming the limbo rock too loud, daydreaming. Um, but I do have faith in something, and I don't know how to define it.
Sure.
Mm.
Um, doing these interviews, is there something about you would want future generations to know?
Oh God, oh God, that I've had a wonderful life. And that would be it. I have had. I've been so lucky, so blessed that there's nothing I can tell them except for, boy, I hope you're as lucky as I have been. I still wake up and wonder how the hell did I get her to marry me?
Hmm.
And I've had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful childhood. My parents were great. I had the freedom to do what I wanted. Had a great time in high school, great time in college, and I've had a great married life.
Mm.
And I had a wonderful work career.
Oh, that's fantastic, Dad.
Oh,
Thanks.
it was
Thanks so much.
incredibly lucky.
Oh.
Except for I never got a date with Aunt Margaret.
Do you remember any of your kind of catchphrases?
I remember. I've got two.
Uh-huh.
That Dad said. And it was one I remembered from you that last with me. You always said, well, because it's the right thing to do. You'd said that all the freaking time.
Yep.
But you also said to us, why are you so damn dumb? You remember that, Tyler? You would say that to me all the time. I broke whatever, messed up. He'd look, be like, what the hell?
I do. Do you remember what you would say every time we got into the car to go somewhere?
Well, I don't.
You would say, and we're off. Like,
Oh yeah, herd of turtles.
Herd of turtles.
Yeah, I heard the turtles. No, it's a herd of turtles. Yeah, it's a herd of turtles. Oh yeah.
That was what I was thinking about.
That's so funny.
God. Well, lucky we all were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Oh
It
God.
was so fun.
Oh God. Do you remember the time in Kiwani? And Tyler, you might have been with us. We went fishing, and the storm came up.
Came in.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting back to the car, and the wind is blowing like crazy. I've got everything. I'm holding the chairs, the poles, and here are all you kids in the car looking out at me, laughing.
Yeah.
I can remember the wind picking up and blowing so hard that I thought
Aaron
was going to.
Aaron, yeah, I thought we were going to lose Aaron.
Jan grabbed Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and we saw it. You could see that line coming.
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
my God, that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't it been for you kids being there, if I was with Gordy, we'd have said, "Let's go up to the end of the pier."
Well, no, I've stopped recording with this. My phone is still going. Can you tell one of my favorite stories, which is the Aunt Jan fishing story?
The Aunt Jan.
Oh, I know this one.
She goes to cast and
She thinks it's funny. God. And Tom and I had been fishing all summer, walleye fishing, and we would catch them, and we ate them because they were pretty good, even on the fox, because the fox was clean up. And Jan and Tom's wife, Diane, why don't you guys ever take us fishing? Oh, God. I think my eyes rolled back into his head when that happened. But we took them out. And both of us kept saying, now the big rule is don't stand up in the boat. There's 4 of us. Don't stand up in the boat. Oh, God. And it's casting. We're going after walleye. Finally, I hook into one. And I stand up to reel them in just as Jan is casting forward. And she caught me with a little Cleo, I think. No, a Rapala. And I thought it was hooked in my eye. Honest God, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be blind. And she stopped. I grabbed the pole, I think, because she pulled it just hard enough to get the barb through. And she's looking at me, oh my God, and we got it out. And I thought, oh, good deal. And I dropped it, and it stayed there. And I thought, what the hell? The Rapala is hooked through the center of my nose, all the way through the barb of the center hook on the 3-hook Rapala. I looked at my buddy, Tom, and he's hanging over the motor. And I thought, oh my God, he's puking. Well, he turns around, he's laughing. Sorry, he's got tears coming down his cheek. And your mother's going, we got to get that out of there. So, no, you leave that alone. But we started going back to the dock. Tom's stopping at every boat on the river, and there's a bunch of people like, hey, look at my buddy. Look at his wife did that. Well, finally, I reached in the tackle box and pulled out the needle nose plier and pulled it right out. Yeah. Pulled it right out. Oh, and Tom's going, oh, crap.
Because wasn't he going to take a picture?
Oh,
wasn't
they were. They were. We get almost to shore, and Jan says, we're taking you right to the hospital. Well, I had just been in the hospital the week before for knocking myself out with a racquetball racket. Took a swing at a ball and hit the wall and hit me right in the forehead. Oh, God. So I pulled it out. But years later, I was having a process done on my nose. And they had to peel off my nose. I had bone spur or something. As it turned out, it wasn't necessary, but the doctor wanted to do it. After the operation's all done, on the way into the operating room, they had given me drugs and all that. I said, everybody unmask. I don't want to see my mother-in-law here. But when the operation was done, the doctor came over and said, it's the funniest thing. You had a hole in the end of your nose. So I told him the story, and it just cracked up everybody in the room.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, I remember your gift that followed. Do you remember what you got? Either birthday or Christmas?
I got a walleye cap. Oh, you mean the helmet?
Yeah.
Tim and Joel sent me a football helmet with a face mask and lures and bobbers all over. I still have that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I have that down in Ohio with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was quite a day. And when it was all done, even with the hook and the fish, I couldn't stop laughing myself because I'd start getting mad and that fish would jiggle. But as soon as she said hospital, I didn't care what happened. I reached in, got as close to the barb as I could, and tick! That hurt? No. Oh God.
One thing I forgot to ask our other uncles is, what do you remember about the father and son weekends?
Oh yeah.
Those were fun. The mice. Do you remember that? The jumping mice. We put peanut butter in the middle of the floor, and they'd jump into each other trying to get to it. Oh God! And Joe Sanders, the snipe hunt. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the snipe hunt.
Yeah, but we were going down this one path. Well, Joe Sanders was several paths over with strangers going by, and he's going. Oh God! And Uncle Joel going to show us how to do trout broil.
Oh yeah, that was on video.
Yep, and here's how you do it. Holy shit! He melted garbage bags about 10 yards away.
Yeah.
Oh God!
And Matt was running around yelling, "Fire! Fire! There's a fire out of the fire!"
Oh God, they
How
were
many of
fun.
those did we do? Do you remember?
I think we only did 3 or 4 of them.
At least 3.
And we did 2 of them at that old church.
Yes.
Yeah, the old King House, was that what
Yeah,
it was?
yeah.
Yep.
The first one was in Wapak at a campsite. We all had tents.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was just kind of helter-skelter put together. Randy showed up with a camper.
Okay.
And he had little Randy with him. Mm-hmm. Joel brought Molly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And
God.
He might have only brought her to one of them or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the last one. I can't remember.
No, that was the first
The
one.
first
He
one.
brought Molly to the first one. Of course, her relatives were from Wapak.
Oh, yeah.
So they were a lot of fun. Oh, God. We made popcorn. And Paul
burnt it so bad.
burnt it so bad, we threw it out. The skunks
skunk,
wouldn't
yep.
even eat it.
Yep. And Uncle Paul's snoring.
Oh, God. No. Peter Perimsky.
Oh, that was.
Peter Perimsky. Oh, my God. He was snoring so loud. We went over and hit him. Okay. He was snoring so loud you expected a cartoon with the walls coming in. Oh, God.
Oh man.
Oh. But Uncle Mark pulled out a gun.
Yeah, the handgun.
And we put a quick stop to. We went out and to do some shooting at a target, but he pulled it out in public, and we had a conversation with him about that. He's a wonderful man.
We always thought he was super cool. Because,
Yeah, we loved his Uncle Mark stories.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he's he's kind of big, kind of goofy guy, but also he cut off the tip of his finger.
Yeah. Yep. I remember us as kids hunting him down when we had family together.
Mhm.
Just, Uncle Mark, tell us a story. Well, kids, just one time I was working on the farm, and just boom.
Oh. Can you remember Uncle Joel when we were doing, I think it was the bow and arrow target shooting?
I don't remember
I
it with
remember.
bow and arrow. I remember it with the 22.
22.
Yeah.
We were all doing it, and he just came walking over and was watching all this and said, bing, put it right dead center, and that's how you do it.
What I remember is we're all sitting there trying to shoot it. None of us can hit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes in and gets a 12 gauge.
Oh,
And, of course, obliterates the cannon. That was the loudest sound I had ever heard in my whole life. The 22 is like, bing,
yep.
bing,
Joel.
Oh,
God.
God, it's so funny.
But those were fun. I mean, incredible. And a great break for all of us fathers from work to get out and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, we played cards and drank beer. And Dad came with us.
Mm.
Mm. That was amazing.